I've always had this idea for like healthy chocolate milk for adults. We're a strength brand. We are not selling milk. We're selling strength. Think about this like it's your full-time effing job, and like even if you're making minimum wage, like you're absolutely freaking grinding. He refuses to drink Slate until he watches me milk a cow, so he's never had a can. True story. We're going to milk. Come back when you have the next Facebook.
You can go wild in that product.
Shit's about to get crazy on this thing.
Exactly. So. Welcome to the Behind the Rise podcast, hosted by the Perrina Brothers. My name is Angelo, and I'm joined by my brothers and business partners, Lucio and Valentino. On this show, we will speak to successful local, national, and global entrepreneurs, as well as discuss lessons we've learned in our 15-year career building a 9-figure organization. We're in the middle of our journey now and want to share with you all the wins, losses, and lessons learned behind the rise. All right, guys, today we got a very special episode. We have the founder of Slate Milk, Manny Lubin. Welcome to the show, Manny.
Co-founder. The co-founder Josh will be very offended. But
yeah, co-founder. Yeah, we got the co-founder status.
Yeah, there you go. Josh is the real brains of the operation.
Yeah. So, Manny, thank you for coming. I know it's freezing out.
Yeah.
Could have done a lot of things on this Saturday morning, but you decided to join it with us. We appreciate it.
Of course.
I'm a huge fan of the brand personally. I used to drink it all the time, and I still drink it. Oh, yeah. We carried it at New Tray for a little bit. I mean, it's an unbelievable brand. I mean, I've been so curious about how you guys grew since I've kind of heard about you guys and watched you guys, and so happy you're on to kind of hear the story. That we have so many questions.
I've never been more curious to actually hear the story than today, so I'm excited.
Yeah, and the last hour before we turn the mics on, we've been like just drilling him with questions just because we're so like curious about everything, and everything's been so successful that you guys have done, from getting onto Shark Tank to your whole story. So we have a lot to get into. Let's get right down to it. So where did you grow up? Let's start there.
Wellesley, Massachusetts.
Wellesley, huh?
Burbs of Boston. One of the things we said on Shark Tank that got cut was we're just a couple dudes from the Burbs of Boston.
That's awesome.
We don't think we're not Harvard MBAs. Josh and I both went to Northeastern too in Boston, and we're Boston guys.
Yeah. Were you guys friends in high school?
No. So we went to Northeastern together. We actually met after college, but we were in the same like group of friends.
Cool.
So I think there's that mutual trust. And then Josh's mom and my mom actually have the same birthday, which we didn't know until after we actually started the business.
Weird.
And no, it's crazy. They also have a mutual friend that they actually knew each other, Josh's mom and my mom, before we were even born. And like you guys are brothers, but like it starts with trust. Right. Co-founders, we see co-founders split all the time. And it's like, you got to trust the person you're waking up and going to work with.
100%. Now, do you guys have like different skill sets? Like,
so
what's that like?
I always say I'm about as dangerous and excel as a can of beans.
Yeah. Okay.
And Josh couldn't start a brand to save his life.
Okay. Good.
So we know what we're good at. And I think when we started, like in terms of responsibilities, it was like, we got to agree upon everything. Like if we disagree, we got to flesh it out and talk about it until the other person's like, all right, like let's go.
Yep.
And we always say like NLB. It's kind of like our saying, never look back. It's like if we make a decision, look back and learn, but like if you have to, but never look back and in your head go down a different path, because it's just gonna like there's no reason to. It's a waste of time.
I love that. Just going back, all you're doing is like you'll never know what would have happened if you made that decision. Right. Just go with what you have. Right. With what you did.
Learn from it, but move the hell on.
But keep it moving.
You are where you are, right? It's like I think we were just talking about this. It's like a big game of like connect the dots.
Yeah.
Right. Where it's like you are where you are. You're not erasing that line. Like you are where you are. Just hop to the next dot and just figure it the fuck out.
Yeah. Nice. All right. So let's go back. High school, right? Yeah. Like, were you a good student? What was the deal?
If you ask my mom, I was.
Yeah.
No. So I played football and baseball.
Nice.
I was a captain of my football team and all conference in football and baseball, and it was the only thing I cared about.
Yeah.
And you guys football players?
Yeah.
Yeah. I figured just by walking in here.
Yeah.
But it's just like the only thing that I wanted to get better at, like school for me, it was like I was like a B student, good enough to get by.
Yeah.
Like mom wouldn't yell at me, but like I think my junior year I took an honor rolls math class, and it was just like a lot of work, and I just started falling behind, and I was like, Mom, like let me just take level 2.
Yeah.
And then I ended up getting an A in level 2, and like I just wasn't driven to try to do better.
Yeah.
It's just like where I was, and and then into college, I went to Northeastern. I studied communications, which is basically nothing.
Yeah. What is communication?
I still don't know.
Like how to text and like talk to people?
Like, I know communication students, and no disrespect, but like I learned more outside the classroom than I did inside the classroom.
Absolutely.
And I was a psych minor. And I was just like curious about the way people think. And like what I always realized is like building a team or like building something with people. It's just like fun.
Yeah. Psychology is a huge part of marketing.
Oh yeah.
Like it's everything. If you really think about like buying habits, psychology, neurology, how our brains work and stuff, it's all just marketing.
Yeah. So I love that. All right. So now, okay, we get an idea. It sounds like you were very similar to us.
Yeah.
You know, like Lucho was a B student. Me and Tino barely graduated. But when we put our mind to something, we cared about, like sports and everything. So you went through college. You know, you met your co-founder there, but you guys got in touch, you know, more afterwards, right? So Milk has been around for a long time, right? Like how did you end up with Slate Milk? Like, where did the idea come from?
Was Slate Milk the first step, or did you?
Yeah. So in college, I was VP of my frat and my community service organization. I was VP of recruitment, which was like hyper localized Big Brother, and that was kind of like one of the aha moments for me. Where when I started doing that, it's called the Dream Program at Northeastern. I think there were probably like 5 people that applied to be mentors. It was like a mentor-mentee program. And then I took over as VP of recruitment. And by the end, there was like 100 people that applied. And it was just like that was marketing, right? You don't realize at the time, it's like just people like in my frat being like, yo, sign up for this shit. Like it's awesome. Yeah. Or just like around campus, just like building a buzz however you can, like social media and shit like that. And
selling it. You were selling
it.
The
selling,
program.
Yeah, exactly. It's awesome. And then after college, I got my real estate license because like I grew up in Wellesley. Like I had my Wellesley network of people that are graduating, moving back to Boston, Northeastern, like people that are still on campus or like graduating, looking for places. I got my real estate license, and I was literally like slinging apartments for maybe like 2 or 3 months. And I remember like getting back to my office and having like a $4,000 check on my desk. And again, real estate, some people like love it,
right?
Like, feel that passion. For me, I was like, I didn't fucking earn this. Like I literally just opened a door,
right?
And it was just like, this isn't like I'm doing the wrong thing.
Yep.
And I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do? So me and my older brother, who now runs marketing for Slate, and I was telling you guys, he's the smartest Lubin. I have a younger brother who doesn't work with us, but my older brother is smarter than all of us. He and I started a company called Repper, which was a college brand ambassador platform. That's where I met a lot of the tech guys in Boston. Yeah. I did that for about a year, and that's where that was like the fail forward, right? It's like one dude I've become close with is the SVP at GoPuff. And he's been awesome.
They're huge now.
Yeah. He's Dan Fogelman's a good dude. And he said something back when we were talking to him a while ago that resonated because he was the same thing. He was like, his businesses were his fails forward. Like it was this modern MBA, and also it was like a fail forward where it was like raise some friends and family capital, made it enough to do all right. Right. And like from the outside, like the business was acquired, but it wasn't the exit that we wanted. Because we only did it for about a year and a half. And that was just like where we learned, me and Ron, like how to build a business, what it takes. Like you got to have a freaking business model. Like, and towards the end of that, when I realized, like we were talking to some traditional angel investors, and we had a guy that wanted to toss us 50 G's, which like, you know, 25
for the idea for Slate.
No, it's the old company.
For the old company.
Wow. Yeah. So this was before like that company was gaining some traction. We probably had 30,000 college students and 500 brands on the platform. It was starting to gain some traction. But behind the scenes, I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I don't want to be selling college brand ambassador programs. Right. And had this investor that we met through the Northeastern network who was about to write a $50K check. And I remember I was at Flower Cafe in October of 2017. And I was like, I can't take your money. Like we have an opportunity to basically sell the assets and move on to the next thing. Like it sucks because like I'm excited to keep it going. Like I have a lot of passion. That was a tough decision, but it's just like, I can't be doing this. This is the wrong business for me. And he was like, I was excited about working with you guys. And I was like, I'm sorry. Like I just want to tell you face to face. And he was like, all right, well, what other ideas do you have? Because this guy just like wanted to invest in me, which was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we're investors too. I mean, we invest in, it's the people, it's the operator. That's especially what you invest in. Yeah.
And so he at Flower Cafe was like, well, do you have any other ideas? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, what have you invested in recently? And he was telling me that he just made a beverage investment. And I actually still know the company that he invested in. They're chugging along, but they're basically circling around the drain. And I was like, clap my hands. I was like, you know, I've always had this idea for like healthy chocolate milk for adults, like literally on the spot, like just that. Just to an investor that like wanted to write a 50K check in the last business. And it was just like, you got your kids high protein or your kids high sugar chocolate milk. So you got your your artificial protein shakes. Like I feel like there's this white space in between them where I drink chocolate milk every day. I'm somewhat lactose intolerant, like most of humanity. What if there was just a healthy chocolate milk branded for adults that was lactose free? You kind of pause. He's like, why don't you look into it? And so that's when I'd already known Josh, my now co-founder, from our last businesses, and his previous tech experience. He was working for a company that grew very quickly. They were kind of going through a pivot too, and he had a lot of startup experience, and we kind of knew we were going to do something together. And I just like threw together a deck. It was the worst deck you've ever seen. It was like sweet victory drinks. Like you work hard, you deserve a little sweet victory.
That was the first name?
That was the first name.
I kind of like it.
First name, yeah.
So it's funny. Then I think like after we changed the name of Slate, I'll get into that. We went to the Smokehouse down in Seaport, and they have like a sauce called Sweet Victory. And I was like, see, the name sticks. Like someone's using it. We sent that over to Josh, and he was like, get the fuck out of here. Like you said, like no one's drinking milk anymore. Yeah. And I was like, no, take a look. And I think the real aha moment for Josh was just taking a look at the market, right? Because when you start any business, you got to look at the market. And I think that's what Josh and I now talk to a lot of young entrepreneurs, like whether our investors send them over, or like we're connected to them. And again, we're still figuring the fuck out, just like you guys, just like everyone else. But if you don't know that, like how big your market is and you're growing, you don't know what you're actually building towards.
So true.
Like,
so true.
It's so true.
Like that's what I think a lot of people look at is like, even back in the day, we'd have some investors that would ask us like, why not go into plant-based? It's like, cause it's fucking 10th of the size of the actual fluid dairy market, right?
So when you were trying to gauge the size of this market, right? The milk market is obviously huge, right? But like, this is a niche within that market.
So what we did, and the way that I positioned it to Josh early on, is, and we not positioned just to Josh, but like we looked at the different parts of the market. The dairy market, or the fluid milk market, was hypothetically decreasing at that time. Now it's actually increasing again. But if the reason it was decreasing was because of skim milk, because it was falling so quickly, and we weren't going to just sell like regular old skim milk, right? So a lot of investors early on, they're like, milk, not going to touch it, like the markets, because they Googled milk market and it was decreasing. But if you actually look, how we wanted to position this thing was kind of this alley in between ready to drink protein and ready to drink coffee. And that's why we wanted to have a caffeinated flavor, because the RTD coffee market, call it now, it's like 25 bill, growing at an 8% CAGR. That's and there are a ton of people going after that, including us. You also look at the RTD protein shake market, that's probably 15 to 18 bill. That's also growing at an 8% CAGR. So now we're taking stomach space from two markets that are both growing almost 10% year over year, and they're $15+ billion markets. And so like that's what we're attacking. We're not attacking the $4 billion chocolate milk market like Nesquik and Yoo-Hoo.
Right.
And early on, even when we were selling this stuff, like we didn't know where in the store we belonged, because like you said, it's milk at the end of the day. Like it's ultra filtered milk. But you look at Nesquik, like you put Slate next to like a Nesquik or like a Hood Milk, they're 99 cents to $1.99. Like we're selling the shelf for $2.99. It's very hard to trade that consumer up, especially if it's like a mother buying for their children.
Right.
It's sometimes they just want more of a value. And at a lot of the stores we were in, they weren't necessarily the most premium retailers. And so that's just not in the store where we usually belong. What we realized, we sell next to in the ready to drink coffee set, even our non-caffeinated flavors. And that's where we go in that set and we turn, right? Like this just works.
Yeah.
So you wanted to go on that shelf space from the beginning?
So we found that out in it took us like a year and a half.
Right.
Okay. So you were with the milks to start.
Correct. So when we launched, and I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but we launched in late 2019. And we launched in one dairy set, in one kind of like shelf stable milk set, and then one ready to drink coffee set. And ready to drink coffee set, like the turns, like the velocities on the shelf just cranked.
Wow.
And that's when we realized, like, to the public, like we are still a milk company, because that's what we are. That's what we sell. That is literally the product. But internally, like we're a strength brand. Like we are more a Peloton than we are a Hood in our heads. Like we are not selling milk. We're selling strength. Like we're selling protein. Like we're selling being fit, or attempting to be fit and healthier. And that's how we think about our marketing.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, there's so many lessons to break down there, and it's exactly things that we learned when we were doing the marinara sauce brand, which we'll talk about. But so many reasons why we didn't do like as good as we should have there was we didn't understand the market. We were in between this like the price point of
placement was a big thing.
Placement was a big. There's so many things we learned. We had a unique
concept, yeah, and we weren't, we didn't understand it enough at the time.
Exactly, and we didn't give it enough time, like to really pivot. Like you wanted to be, you started next to milk, and then you switched to next to the ready to drink coffee products, which I think it's great there.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, and it's different from retailer like Wegmans, for example. Their kind of like protein set or active nutrition set is much more like ingrained into the middle, like with the rest of the grocery items.
Yeah.
It's like our whole thing is we don't want people to go to the pharmacy aisle, pick up like their melatonin, Tylenol. My co-founder Josh always says adult diapers on sales calls. I don't know why, but like in that pharma section,
depends, right?
Then you reach down to your ankles, you got a 4-pack of like muscle milk.
Right.
Like that, our consumer who's buying Slate is not shopping there because they're not necessarily already buying muscle milk or protein shakes.
Right. So we went down that path.
Right.
Mistake,
So we need to be in the place of the store where our consumer is shopping, where maybe they're about to buy a high sugar coffee or they're about to buy an energy drink, which sometimes are in the same set. Now they see Slate, they see it's higher in protein. The mocha version has, and the vanilla latte has 175 milligrams caffeine, getting 20 grams of protein, getting no added sugar. They trade up, then they realize there's the chocolate milks too, the dark chocolate, vanilla latte, or French vanilla and dark chocolate, and they can have something that's non-caffeinated as well.
No, I absolutely love that. That's such a good niche. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're gonna go back.
No,
I know
go back.
we're going. We can go wild in that product.
Shit's about to get crazy on this thing.
Exactly. So, all right. So you had the idea, right? It was supposed to be called New Victory.
Sweet Victory Drinks.
Sweet Victory Drinks, right? So you had the idea. You guys are together. Obviously, you don't know the market yet. You're figuring all, you're going to pivot along the way. But how did you start? Like, how did you make the jar? Like, how did you make the can? Who made it for you? Were you guys like milking cows in the back, like directly into the can?
I got
how that happened.
A buddy from high school that says he refuses to drink Slate till he watches me milk a cow, so he's never had a can. True story, which I've never done. But look, idea October 2017, convincing Josh took about a month because his dad, who's a business person, a great mentor to him, was like, "You're currently in real estate tech. You're going to milk." And for a little while, like we did it part-time. And then finally, Josh and I were both part-time till about mid 2018. And during that time, we literally threw up a whiteboard in my apartment living room. And we just cut it into like squares. And we just list out all different parts of the business that we knew we needed to push forward to actually launch. So it was brand, it was product, it was packaging, it was legal, like forming the entity, etc.
So much stuff.
Just literally, like, there's so many pieces. And we thought about them kind of like chips on a table, right? And like, we call it the finish line, but like there's the launch line. You're always pushing them all forward, right? And now like you have people whose full-time job are pushing those chips forward, like people that run marketing or sales. But we were every day just like, what can we do?
Yeah.
Like, what can we do? And it was just constant Googling, hammering, cold calling. And then in probably June 2018, we were ready to start formulating. Because we learned about ultrafiltration, which is the process of removing the natural lactose sugars from milk, which is what we do. At the time, Fairlife was in a JV, a joint venture with Coke, kind of under the radar. Fairlife is a huge national.
They got screwed recently on that big investigation, right?
They
that was horrible. That documentary.
That was brutal.
I couldn't watch it.
It was really bad. But we talked about that they got screwed. They did $1 billion in sales last year.
Yeah, people just forgot about it. That was the most gruesome. That was the most gruesome documentary I've ever seen. It was disgusting.
Unfortunately, if you have a good product, people are just going to keep buying it. Unless, like, it's just how the world works, you know? But so at the time, like this process, we were like, how do we get, so stepping back, we wanted to be lower in sugar than every other chocolate milk.
Yeah.
And we wanted to be shelf stable. Those were like the two problems we wanted to solve to create the actual product, like brand aside. So we were like, because if this was filled with just regular like skim milk, this would have 17 grams of natural lactose sugars, and we already thought that was too much because it's like not keto, and like we didn't want to drink it. And then if we wanted to add more flavor on top of it, that's why you have some of these Nesquik and Yoo-Hoo and brands that have 50 grams of sugar,
right? And
so we're like, do we boil the sugar out? Like, there's got to be a way to get the sugar out of this thing. So we were Googling for probably a couple days. And then we just started looking up dairy experts on LinkedIn. This is a true story. This guy still doesn't know who the fuck we are. We cold called this dude. His name was Marv. That has a
fucking Marv.
He's awesome. He had locked it for us. He had a dairy consulting business and still does in Boston. I'll probably give him a call after this. But we were just like, Marv, like, how do we get the sugar out of milk? And again, he's a consultant, didn't know who we were, and we were just like asking him questions. And then right there, he's like, have you heard of ultrafiltration? We're like, no, what's that? And he explained this process. It's like you have these huge metal tubes that literally have filters, almost like a Brita, and the milk goes in and out and in and out, and it catches the lactose sugars. And your output is almost like a kefir-looking product, but it's just condensed, sugar-free, unsweetened milk. And then that's what they use to typically make protein powders or whey powders. But keeping it in liquid form, you're just an ultra-filtered milk. And that was a huge unlock for us, because then we realized, again, Fairlife at the time was the only one doing it, owned by Coke. It's lower sugar, higher protein, nearly lactose free. You can add an enzyme to make it fully lactose free. Dairy. We're like, this is the fucking future of all of dairy.
Wow.
Like that product hits all of these trends. And the reason why not more people were doing it is it's fucking expensive. Like it probably, we actually did the math of buying one. It's probably going to cost like $1 million to $1.5 million to actually like install a UF on a dairy farm and keep it up and running.
Wow.
Which like a dairy farm that's already struggling, they don't have the cap to do that. So there are dairy co-ops around the country that actually offer it. And so we're like, all right, we're using UF ultra filtered milk as our base, like checkbox one. Next step, shelf stable. And this was a real bitch because you guys know about like if you guys were in sauce, just manufacturing anything to make anything shelf stable, their mins are so effing high.
Right.
And so there are two ways to make dairy and coffee products shelf stable. One is called the retort process, which is what we use. That's anything in glass or cans. So like you think of Starbucks Frappuccinos, you think of Slate, you think of anything like those. The other way is what's called UHT, ultra heat treatment to aseptic. And that's anything that you see in like a Tetra Pak, like coconut waters. Slightly different process.
Parmalat milk.
Yeah, that exactly. Shelf stable milk that's in those things. And then also plastic bottles.
Yeah.
Like which is what Core Power, owned by Fairlife, owned by Coke, uses. And we really didn't want to use plastic. We didn't think that the Tetra Pak at the time was the best appearance for the brand.
Yeah.
Like your packages, you guys know, like this is your outfit.
Right.
Like I'm not gonna show up here like wearing sweatpants and like a baggy ass shirt. It's like you want to present yourself how you want to present yourself. Sometimes you have limitations, but we're like we want a can.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful packaging.
And so we found out about the retort process. And so we're like, all right, we have the way to make the product. We have the actual packaging and process we want to use. Now let's go fucking make some shit.
Yeah.
So, two 20-something-year-olds all high and mighty, excited to seize the day. Josh and I went to Stop and Shop, bought a bunch of ingredients, blended some shit up, tried it, and said, we cannot do this ourselves.
Immediately. No way.
There's no fucking chance we are making this product. And so we interviewed formulation houses and or flavor houses and formulators. So the difference is like a formulation team can source different flavors from flavor houses and test it out. Whereas a flavor house, like you have to use their flavors, but they typically do it at a reduced price or no cost. And we're like, we got to have the best product. So we went with a formulation team, and that's when we raised our first check. And it was from the guy that I sat with at Flower Cafe 9 months earlier.
Oh. So at that point you realized you needed capital because you needed to start producing.
And Josh and I put a little bit in the business, but like in terms of the formulation, like we didn't want to cut corners.
Right.
Like we're not gonna pay six figures.
Right.
But like we wanted to work with people that we thought would create a good product. Cause like let's say we just spent like, I don't know, a G or two on the formulation and it sucks, then like we're wasting everyone's time and money.
Yeah, no.
So let's do it right. So that's when the first check came in.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So now you're getting the formula ready, right? And then you got to try to find a co-packer or something like that's because you said you're interviewing them. At that point, they're interviewing you. They're going to give you space on the line or not?
Yeah. So this was, now we're into late 2018 and formulation took like a year. So it's like simultaneous. It's shit would take so long.
So no sales, you're pre-revenue.
They were pre-revenue. And this was now going into late 2018. And we're trying to find a co-packer while we're formulating, and everyone's telling us to fuck off, which they should, because who the fuck are we, right? And we're just simultaneously pushing everything forward. Like I think, and while that was going on, like we were doing that as fast as we could, but it's like, all right, let's start hammering out other things. It's like business entity formed, like started thinking about like creating the actual package for this container, which we knew we wanted, and just started pushing everything else forward. And then simultaneously just having co-packer conversations.
Yeah. And you guys are both full time in this at this point?
At this point, yeah.
So you're a year making no money, living off of like ramen and milk that you're testing, and trying to make it by. That's the hardest time. But looking back, that's like where the foundation was built.
You got to do it. And then also we were also simultaneously raising money because Josh and I had both worked at startups, and what we found is that look, if you can't pay yourself, you can't pay yourself. And we didn't for a while, but we felt as though when we had both worked for companies in the past where we weren't even making an hourly wage, it just internally felt more like a project than a job in a business. So we actually raised capital pretty early and just started paying ourselves like a tiny amount just to have some income.
Right.
And looking back on it, like it's a difficult time because you're like, how much do you pay yourself? Like as a business owner, especially when it could be going towards a business, but like even your investors should want you to think about this like it's your full-time effing job. And like, even if you're making minimum wage, like you're absolutely freaking grinding.
Right. Yeah, no, it's so true. And you also need that like level of like comforts. That way you can just, you don't need to focus on like where you're sleeping tonight. You're focusing on the business, you know?
And who was consulting with you at that point to be like, how much can you give away pre-revenue? Like what gauge
how did
or
you come up
metric?
with the valuations, all that stuff?
I mean, valuation is literally just, Josh, in my opinion, is just an investor and business owners deciding on what the company's worth. Like until you're public, like you guys or I could go out tomorrow and value a company at $400 million. If we find an investor, the business is worth $400 million, right? Or like you could be doing 50 million sales and an investor could be like, you know what, you guys are worth 40 mil. And if that's the highest value you can get, that's what the business is worth, right? Like even like now we've talked to dozens, if not hundreds of VC and PE firms and like angel investors and whatnot. Like we've pitched hundreds of times and it's like everyone thinks about valuation differently. It's just like, can we agree upon what the business is worth? It's like, it's fucking Shark Tank, right? It's like, it's what it, in the early days. So our like first like lead investor, so this was about the time Stu came involved. He was the first sales broker for Chobani. And he's helped grow a handful of brands to like 15 to 20 plus million sales. And he's very well connected in the food industry. And Josh, my co-founder, met him on a golf course. True story.
Awesome.
And he's just chipping, came up to him and just, like asked him how he did that. And Josh is a great salesperson, like best salesperson I've ever met. And at the end of the conversation, Stu said, "Come back when you have the next Facebook." And so then we called Stu. This was after we had like a small check, but Stu was basically the first one. And Josh said, "Stu, I got something. Saw Facebook." I was like, "What is it?" It's like, "It's chocolate milk." And Stu basically spit in his face, told him to fuck off.
Really?
But he ended up getting involved in the brand. And we came to terms on a deal. It's probably late 2018, early 2019 now. It might have been into 2019 because we launched Kickstarter Feb 4, 2019. Probably.
And why did you guys decide to do Kickstarter?
Yeah, so I didn't want to do it. This was all Josh. Like I was like, I don't want to be a Kickstarter brand. Like for whatever reason, I just had this thought that it would kind of like not put a black cloud over us, but at the time it was just like we'd already raised some capital at that point. It's like, is this the path we want to take? And Josh was like, we're doing a Kickstarter and here's why. And he explained it and he had gone through Kickstarter before. And it was he convinced me, sold me on it. And I was like, all right, let's go. Because I thought it was going to take a lot of time and be a distraction, but it was huge for us. And we did about 52K in pre-orders from over 1,000 backers. I think it was like 1,200.
So how does it work? So you say like Kickstarters, but orders. So what, can you explain that a little bit?
So how Kickstarter works is you set up a min dollar target. So I think ours was 10 G's and you can pre-sell product, right? So the idea is if you hit your number, then everyone is like pre-ordering the product and then you're fulfilling the orders. But if you don't hit your number, then everyone gets their money back. So we did like in terms of like the AOV, we could do out the math, but I'm guessing it was like $50 to $100. People were like pre-ordering so that we could launch the business. And so our goal was 10 G's and we hit that in the first day. We threw a party at the Bell in Hand in Boston.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, oldest bar in Boston.
Yeah. And oh man, we sprayed like chocolate milk over the ceiling. They were so fucking pissed. But it was like a Thursday night at 9. They did so many dollars in sales. They didn't give a shit. But no, Kickstarter was huge. And that was, we hit probably 10 to 14 G's in our first day and then I'm doing 50. And so like that 50 like hits the bank account. And now it's like, all right, we got to go make the product. And at that point we're getting close for the co-packers. And then that's when we got in contact with Shark Tank and Whole Foods is after the Kickstarter. And again, it's, we talked about like connecting the dots. It's also like a big game of domino, right? You guys know, you knock one over, like 4 more fall. And so if we would not for the Kickstarter, like there's probably no Shark Tank. There's Whole Foods maybe, but not the way that we got in.
Yeah.
And so that was like a huge, and Josh still was like, don't forget about Kickstarter.
Yeah. So how did you audition for Shark Tank?
So still on a very long NDA with them. which personally, not even through the business. So got to be very delicate. But
really,
we were connected to them after Kickstarter, and it's because of Kickstarter that we got connected to them. And honestly, like, we got an email from like a Gmail of this guy named Vince, and we're like, this is spam. And then I think Josh got a cold call somehow and picked up, and it was like a human on the end of the line. He's like, I've been trying to reach you guys, like, and we're like, oh, shit. And then we like looked him up on LinkedIn. It's like the casting producer for Shark Tank, and we talked for a little while. And I think that we kind of like Kickstarter. We're like, if we're gonna lose control of the situation if we go on the show, like regardless if it's good or bad, like we're putting ourselves in a situation where we can't control the outcome. And I think that's what Josh and I have always done well. Like we've made so many mistakes, but like in terms of signing like agreements that are years down the line, or like things that handcuff us for the future for immediate gain, we're always very delicate about that, because like we'll find a fucking way.
Right.
And so with Shark Tank, there was a lot of talk back and forth. Like we weren't like right away, like, what do we have to do? Like, we need to be on tomorrow. We were trying to be like thoughtful about it. We talked to a handful of people that went on the show, and then ultimately decided it was something we wanted to pursue. And one thing led to another, and got a call like, guys, bad news. I hope you don't have plans June 14, because like we're flying you to LA. And we were like, fuck, like we're about to go on Shark Tank.
Wow.
Without,
that quick.
Without fucking, I mean, it was like a 6-month period probably.
Yeah.
It was probably 4 months. But anyway, we had no sales. We knew they were gonna hate our vow,
right?
But like we had raised cap in the past, and we were like let's put the gloves on, let's go.
Yep.
And yeah, we were just in LA, like it didn't have a package yet, didn't have a final package, so we got blank Dasani cans, which they don't even sell anymore, and went to a Staples, printed out some computer paper with the labels that we had.
You're shitting me.
No, didn't have any package yet.
Wow.
Didn't have a final product. So what the Sharks tried, like we just had the lad craft up what we thought was best, but like that it's still bomb. I'll always say that product was great, but like it was not anything close to even what we had as our first iteration.
Wow.
Because it's like, you know, opportunity knocks sometimes. Like you can just pass it, or you can open the door and say, all right, like let's see what happens.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, because even now those reruns are playing.
Yeah.
You know? And you know, you're out there and you got the product figured out, so people are probably looking you up.
So what was the pitch? What was your pitch? Describe the whole experience.
So coming back to the brand now, when we thought about how we wanted people to think about Slate, we literally drew like a line on a whiteboard and then like angled it down. It's like, this is the journey of chocolate milk. Everyone thinks about chocolate milk as high in sugar, meant for kids. We need to change the way that people think about the liquid, because if you take away the packaging, like anything that you currently see on the market, like the liquid itself just tastes pretty damn good. It's like nostalgic, chocolatey, like sweet. It's pretty high in protein. It's got natural electrolytes, which we don't even talk about that much. But we just needed to change the way that people thought about it. So we're like, we want to give it like a reboot. We want to start it over. And then that's when, like on the board, it was like clean slate, and we circled slate, and we're like, huh. Josh always says he was the one that circles it. I'm calling BS. It was like a collective decision, I think, but no, I'll give it to Josh. But then we like started the slate, like it's simple, it's clean, it has a story, like where chocolate milk's clean slate was the idea, where like it's great liquid, just gotta make it lower in sugar, higher in protein, and a package that people can actually consume as adults. And then that just stuck. And now it's more than just chocolate milk's clean slate. It's like we want to give things that are high in sugar and or artificial a clean slate. Like that's the whole vision of the brand.
Wow.
I never realized about the name. I love that.
Yeah.
So what did you ask for? Like who was on the show first of all when you went on the show?
It was Kevin, Lori, Barbara, Cuban, and Rohan Oza, who runs the venture fund Kavu. I think, what was our pitch? Josh said like $400,000 instead of dollars, and every single time it airs, he gets like 5 Snapchats. I think we asked for 400 G's for 10%, and we had like our pre-rev sales of like 50 G's. Wow. And you're in there for way longer than they show. I think you're in there for like, I don't know, 45 to an hour.
So what's your valuation at that point? Like
4 million?
4
million.
Four flat. Yeah, we were 4, which we are already raised above that at that point. So like that was even a discount to the current val that we had already raised at. And we already had this, shark, this guy Stu, who was super connected in the food industry. And he was our way in, like our validator to a lot of people. Because like you think about, like we were just talking about this. Like you go to a grocery store, it took you 2 weeks to name all the brands in there.
Legit.
Like they have to run a business too. The buyers handling what, 100, 200 brands potentially, maybe 20 or 30. I honestly don't know. It depends on the set. But they don't want two knuckleheads from the burbs of Boston coming in and be like, buy our chocolate milk. Right. So you get someone that can help you validate, which is also why we work with brokers, because a broker like basically vets brands, takes on brands like Slate or like fast growing brands, and then has relationships with the buyers where they can say, hey, I got these new brands for you. So like the whole food industry, it's a big game of validation, even to get in the ear of the decision maker. But so that's why on Shark Tank, the whole conversation was about valuation. There's some details of the story too, where we probably weren't set up in a position to succeed based on the time of the day and what they had before and like some other external factors. But like at the end of the day, like we knew we were going to lose control. Like we were going to have no control. And the press is, Josh always says it's the only people that are actually angry about the way it went was our moms. They're like, go back on there and show them. But it's just at the end of the day, it's just buzz.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So, okay. So at that point you were pre-revenue, right? And then, when did you start selling? Did you immediately go to distributors, to brokers? Did you start selling to small stores on your own locally? Like what was the strategy there, the distribution strategy? Yeah.
So from Kickstarter, we were able to connect with Whole Foods. So we launched in like November 2019 with Whole Foods NA, so Whole Foods North Atlantic, like New England, Roach Brothers, Harris Teeter, which is 240 stores kind of down in the Carolina-ish region, and Central Market, which is like 12 stores in Texas.
So was that through a distributor?
So we had teamed up with a broker.
Okay.
So in terms of like getting in, so the way that I like to think about distribution is there's top down and bottom up. Top down is like through the actual buyers themselves, the decision makers, like the thumbs up, and bottom up is like pulling the sales through the register. So like that would be more like the distribution angle. So top down, we teamed up with brokers because again, we couldn't get it, not for Whole Foods, but we couldn't get anyone's attention.
Right.
And so through our investors, we were able to get in contact with a national broker who took us on. We cut a deal with them, and they were actually just offboarding a similar product, similar brand. And so they kind of had like a hole. And so the timing just worked out great too.
Awesome.
And so their team was motivated to not take down the other brand, but like sell the shit out of this, which is awesome. So that's kind of how we got in the ear of the buyers. And then from a distribution level, we work with broadliners. So basically like we work with companies called like UNFI, KHE, that basically, we get on their trucks and they ship and drop off in the back of the store. And then at the time, we were going to the stores. Like me, Josh, our first employee, Anna Carr, who we call AC. She now runs partnerships. She's a fucking badass. And we would demo, we would merchandise. Like there would be Saturdays where like I'd go to Roach Bros in Wellesley and like run into my high school friends' moms.
Right.
Like buy like 7 cans.
Right.
And it's like, you just got to build it.
Yeah. So that was like, it was really guerrilla marketing. So you're getting into the stores to the broker, right? Creating some buzz. And then you guys are doing demos and just local marketing to try to push sales through the stores, right? Because you're not doing any direct to consumer at this point.
So at that time, I forgot to mention, we did launch online as well.
Okay.
So I think there's so many different strategies to launching a food and beverage company.
Yeah.
And I think that some of the people last night I just talked to through one of our investors. They asked us to talk to them. It's a kombucha company in Hawaii. It's cool. It's a cool product. And I think they're still kind of figuring out what their strategy is. But if you don't have a strategy, then you have nothing to execute on. Right. So for us, our strategy was always D2C, like e-commerce and grocery. Because if you try to do everything at once, like no one's gonna know who the fuck you are, and like no one's gonna know what's going on, like where you belong. But like you think of like a Spindrift kind of grew through like QSRs, like quick service restaurants, and at least in my head, and like hit like the Balocos, and like that's how I heard about it. And then they built that up, and then started to go more into grocery, and then C-store. Like that's one. Think of like Fit Aid that really grew through gyms. I don't know if you guys seen like Life Aid, Fit Aid. I think they had like a $7 to $10 million gym business, and before they went to grocery, but like that was their strategy. That's what kind of like where they went in. There's so many different ways that you can like build. And then you think of like Athletic Greens, like they're valued at 1.5 bill. Like we're just talking about Freshly, and they're all D2C. And now Freshly, like now their strategy has changed, but like they executed so well on D2C.
Right.
So for us, our strategy was always grocery and e-com.
Yeah.
Like those are the two channels, because e-com, even the cost of shipping, which we talked about, isn't great for like your end all contribution margin. You're building the brand through sales.
Right.
Definitely.
Like I oversee marketing, and we actually consider e-com part of marketing. Like we have a head of sales who oversees all retail sales.
Right. So even if you're not making a ton on the direct to consumer. It's marketing for the brand.
Correct. And now that's, that was also early on as you launch more 3PLs, like basically warehouses that are all over the country, you can send more product to them and then ship it much closer end distances. You're going to end up making more money. But for us, we still, when we talk to investors, we say our e-com business is marketing through sales. Yeah. Like I'd rather have someone pay $40 for a 12-pack of Slate and like talk to their friends about it, then get a billboard in Times Square. Right. Because like I'm actually getting dollars back.
But how are you getting those sales? Are you like doing ads and trying to convert people? So you're spending money to get those customers.
Definitely. Yeah. Too. So that's why we raise cap, right? So we, like our three main line items, like if you boil it all down in terms of like how we kind of think about our business is you got inventory, you gotta have the product. Yep. You have marketing, you gotta make people know the product exists. Yep. And then we have our field team that like drives the sales in the stores. Yeah. Like there are other line items, of course, but like those are the big three. Yeah. Like if everything else went and we still had those big three, and then we also have finance, you got to fund it. But like in terms of like how we think about the line items, like that's how we think about the business. Yeah. Where my team's job is in the marketing channel, make sure people know what the F we are. Right. Like when people see this tag, we want them to think high protein. We want them to think all natural. Like we want them to like feel some sort of connection and know what they're going to get. Yeah. And then based on our advertising. And then when someone goes into a store, if we're in that store, Josh's team's job on the sales side is to make sure that we're as many places in the store as we can be. Yeah. Make sure the product's actually on the shelf first and foremost. And whether it's checkout coolers, like we talked about, fixtures, like shippers in the stores, multiple facings, whatever we can do, like put the product in front of them because then they're familiar with it from our social ads, whether it's influencers or like Facebook, IG, TikTok ads. Then they pull it off the shelf. They feel like they already know it somehow. Yep. Or because of the ads, they drink it. And then at that point, we always say it's up to the product to bring them back. Yep.
Now, are you shipping D2C nationwide?
Yes. Continental, not Hawaii and Alaska. Okay. We were for a while. It was a fucking disaster. Yeah.
So now, like, if you get an order in California, is that being shipped from like a warehouse closer to California?
Yeah, right now it's probably being shipped from Dallas. But so again, right now,
it's a big operationally intensive.
Yeah. Right? So, but we outsource all of that. Yeah. So we know some companies that fulfill themselves, which could be more cost effective. But for us, just the volume of orders, like we'd rather have multiple warehouses that are doing thousands, if not tens of thousands of orders per day, because then just the cost per order is significantly less. Yeah. So we work with what's called 3PL warehouses, third-party logistic warehouses. Yep. Where from our co-mans, we send them full truckloads.
Right. So your job is to get them like the pallets of product, and then they handle individual orders.
Correct.
Yeah, that's something that we've talked about over the years as we were building Nutray too. Like because it's so operationally intensive, and we spend most of our time handling the operations because we're making and sending and shipping everything ourselves. Yeah. And when you do that, it takes mental bandwidth away from sales, because you're dealing with the operations and you're like operationally constrained, constricted, where in your case, it's like marketing, sales, like is just do whatever you can to get the sales.
Yeah. And we always say like we're at the end of the day, we're a marketing and operations company. Right. But like we're a marketing company, whereas like our manufacturers, they're manufacturing companies. Yeah. And so I think it's understanding what you're good at. Because like operationally, like we talked about Coke and Pepsi. Right. Like, yes, they market, but like they're operation companies. Like they are literally, their distribution systems are unbelievable. Right. And the fact that they can get products anywhere in the country when it comes to beverages at less than anyone else. And like they've established that network. Right. So
yeah, that's like
Amazon. I have a question. Did you have any issues with like product? Like one run came in and it tasted like shit, for example. Like, did you have any of those that came in?
Yeah. What's great about the gift and the curse about dairy is it's very highly regulated, which is why a lot of people don't do it. Like when we're asking ourselves, which everyone does, is like, why hasn't anyone done exactly what we're doing? Because dairy's fucking hard. Like there's so many regulations, which there should be, right? But off the line, we always test all of our products before they go into market. And so we haven't had, in terms of like taste wise, we've never had a situation like that. If you go from small batch to big batch, I don't know if you guys see this, but like sometimes there's a taste variance. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of impossible to plan for. All you can do is just try to make the product better and better. And like, we think we have a great product just based on like our repeat purchase rate. And like, we freaking love it. Like at the end of the day, we created this shit for ourselves. Right. So like, if it's solving our problem, we know it's solving other people's problems. But in terms of just always trying to improve the taste, it's never been drastic where it never had like a health or safety issue, which is great. because of all the testing that we do. But when it comes to improving the product, like even today, we're just trying to make it better.
Yeah.
You guys just came out with a new flavor, right?
August, we launched a vanilla latte and a French vanilla. Vanilla latte is caffeinated, French vanilla non-caff. French vanilla was actually out of stock for the past 4 months. It's going back in stock on Monday.
And what made you want to go towards the new flavor route, like the latte, and like what made those two flavors?
Yeah. So when we launched, we want to do one thing very, very well. Like people till the day with Josh and I die will probably think of us as the chocolate milk guys, which we're like, let's just own it. Let's just be the guys that reinvented chocolate milk or repositioned chocolate milk. And so when we launched, we had a classic chocolate, a dark chocolate, and then the mocha latte was actually called espresso chocolate. So it was like a classic chocolate milk, which is just a healthier, like kids chocolate milk from growing up. Dark chocolate milk, which is more for that plant-based drinker that maybe just wanted something a little bit less sweet and like a little bit darker tasting.
Yep.
And then the espresso chocolate milk was for the coffee drinker. But the idea is like, let's just be the chocolate milk guys. And whenever anyone thinks of chocolate milk, if they know Slate, they'll think of us.
Yeah.
And then as the brand evolved, what we realized again is that we're not selling chocolate milk, like we're selling indulgent strength. And like the protein was the key to success and the no added sugar. And that's why a lot of people were drinking it. And so what we realized is if we can rebrand the espresso chocolate to a mocha latte, then that will appeal much more to that high sugar latte drinker. And we'll be able to capture that stomach space from that consumer. And then the kind of platform off of that was also something that if someone was drinking a Slate every day, a dark chocolate or a classic chocolate, we wanted to give them something a little bit different in taste with a French vanilla. We see a lot of brands that have crazy flavors and they're cool. At the end of the day, you look at like the top selling protein shakes,
chocolate, vanilla.
Yeah. You look at the top selling coffees, it's mocha and vanilla.
Right.
And so one of our investors is Peter Rahal, the founder of RX Bar. And I think he said publicly.
He just sold recently, right? For big money.
I think he sold like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
600 mil to Kellogg. And what he said is he would just look at other brands and their top selling flavors and just create a better flavor with a better package and put it next to it. It's like that easy.
Simple. Sometimes people overcomplicate it. I feel like
Yeah,
that's the
he
easiest way to
went
do it.
simple. I watched him on a podcast once, and he was talking about how he chose the flavors in general. And I remember he said he wanted like one chocolatey flavor, one like fruity, like blueberry type flavor. But that's what he basically did. It was like just make it really good with really simple ingredients.
Yeah.
And even his packaging is really simple. Right. So part of your strategy also, it sounds like, based on your like list of investors, you could speak on this more, but your investors are adding value, not just cash, right? I mean, some of these guys you're talking about here are just probably saving you years and years of mistakes.
Yeah. I mean, the game's always changing, right?
Yeah.
And I think Josh and I, we always want to be scholars of the game. Like, even if someone comes in and like Doug has taught us a lot, Rahal has taught us a lot, like the founders of Yasso, frozen Greek yogurt, are investors too. And they've been awesome. The co-founder of Drizzly, Nick Relis, like just his experiences have been huge for us, and he's an investor and a buddy now. But I think for us, if the cash hits the bank, it's going to help the business.
Right.
If the cash hits the bank and someone can talk to us about what they did wrong, that's going to be even more valuable.
Yeah.
Now,
these guys on your board? Are they like
no? So
board
they're just investors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, we've always been afraid. We talked about raising money in the past and this and that. Like, we've heard some stories of like investors coming in and then trying to like take over the company. Like, how's the dynamic that you have with your?
We have a great relationship with our investors, and it's something we look for. Like we'd rather run the company the way we are now with less money than have more money and run it the way someone else wants to run it, because they're not doing it, they're not living it.
Right.
Like, you guys know, it's like even if they had success doing it one way 10 years ago, it's not the fucking same game.
Right.
Like, the game is literally changing every single day.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to distribution.
Right.
Right. And when it comes to trends, when it comes to all that stuff. But I think that we always want to take advice from people when we need to learn something or need to make a decision. Josh and I will just blitz all our investors and advisors all at once, just like bang, 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 call them, come together and be like, what'd you hear? And a lot of times it's mixed feedback from people that are on paper way smarter than us, and probably are way smarter than us.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you just got to like interpret all the information and
make your own best decision.
Go with your fucking gut.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's great to have that
group
of people that have been through it and all that. It's awesome. But at the same time, them trusting you to make the call on your own.
Oh, yeah.
And then not looking back if you made the decision differently.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
When you got into Whole Foods, right? Do you think that was like a big pivotal point for us because when you're a startup brand, to align with Whole Foods, it's like you automatically think it's either a premium or it's healthy. Like, do you think that did a really good like kickstart for your sales?
So just getting into a retailer like Whole Foods early on, yes, definitely helps. Cause like you think of what we would consider like an influencer account, something that people watch.
Right.
And Whole Foods is definitely one of those. But even locally here, like you look at like a Roach Brothers where like we turned well, like that helped, right? Like everything, like, cause our strategy has always been get in a retailer, prove out our model of what we call buzz and boots. Buzz through social media, boots on the ground, people in the stores, like driving the sales through the register, whether it's, displays, additional placement, et cetera. Like that model, we proved it at Whole Foods, it worked. Then we took that to Publix, and then like we were able to partner with them, like proved it works. And like we're still like the model stays the same, it just gets bigger and bigger. And if you have a case study that works and you have the attention of the buyer and you can at least sell them that story, you still need product differentiation, you still need brand differentiation, but then it's much easier for them to take a shot and take a risk on bringing in a new brand versus you just saying, we're gonna do everything we can. Like we have a formula right now. And again, the game's always changing. It could change, but like we have a formula that's worked when we've launched new retailers. So that's what we sell. It's just like the formula that works.
Right. So for people to understand in this business, right, if you don't have good sell through on the shelf, they'll pull your ass.
Gone.
Right. And one thing we learned the hard way is that if you don't sell through, like what you didn't realize, they'll put an order in, right? And correct me if I'm wrong. A retailer will put an order in. If it doesn't sell through at the rate that they want it to sell through at, you're obligated as the manufacturer or whatever to buy the product back from them at the retail price. That happened to us. We were like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's different situation to situation.
Yeah.
And so again, like from just the people we have around us, we've never been in a situation where we've experienced that. But we know like early on there was a nationwide what do we call them? Like protein brand retailer that was thinking about taking in Slate, and we looked at the deal and it just wasn't the right deal for us because there's just too much risk at the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we learned early from the people around us is sometimes you just gotta say no.
Right.
It's like if the sale's there today, if you have a better product and better brand, it'll be there tomorrow.
Right.
So it's growing fast enough to make sure you're still capitalizing on those sales, but not too fast where like you're taking on so much risk that can just bury you.
Yep. So that like that strategy of when you're launching and guaranteeing sell through, right? Because you're doing all the buzz and boots. That seems to be like a big, key for you guys.
Yeah,
right,
and for us, I think we would never guarantee it. It's just like if it's not working, let's find out why.
Right.
Because what we like to say now is again like I said this earlier. I don't think a brand's ever too big to fail. Like you get the wrong people making the wrong decisions, or you have a catastrophic error, like you're going down.
Right.
But I think we've had a lot of success because we've proven brand market fit and product market fit.
Yeah.
Where it's resonating.
Yeah.
And like what we're doing is working. And again, could lose it all tomorrow, but right now that's working. If we go into a new retailer and we're taking the same formula and it's not working, let's find out why. Like we're not going to blame them. Like they shouldn't blame us. Like let's just understand maybe it's the product's not on the shelf. Maybe we're not going to the stores fast enough. Maybe I don't know. Maybe there's someone picketing outside the store that just hates Josh or myself. Like we have no idea, but like if it's not working, like let's find out why before we just say, like it's not working.
Yeah. Is there different parts of the country that sells better than others?
So because we have these full-time area sales managers who are like badasses, like they're in their cars all the time, like going to the stores, like driving sales, like partnering with store managers, and they're awesome. And so because of that, we wanted to hyper localize where we sold. So we're very East Coast focused. So we're probably right now in maybe 6,000 to 7,000 doors, but we're doubling our store count in like the next 6 months.
Oh.
And so we're going national. And so that's why we've really focused on either East Coast or premium accounts. So like LA, like we have a SKU in Erewhon. We're in Bristol Farms, kind of like that premium retailer, because the price point's a little bit higher than most other things that the consumers are sometimes used to. But then later this year, we should be in about double the amount of stores all over the country.
Wow. So this is a big year.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you decide on when to put things on sale or not? Like in the stores?
Yeah. Like TDPs. So that's the trade, like the promo calendar or something. So our head of sales, Mike, came over from Popcornopolis, which was the popcorn and the cone company. They were acquired, and he has like 15 years experience. And so he works, and Josh, my co-founder who oversees sales, works with our broker and the retailers themselves, where like they expect a certain amount of what's called trade, like trade promotion. where it's just discounting product. Like even my parents will go into like a Whole Foods and be like, is everything okay? I saw you guys were on sale for 2 for $4. I'm like, no, we're supposed to do that to kind of kickstart sales.
Yeah.
Some brands like they'll sell 20 to 40% of their annual rev on sale, on deal. Right. That's fine. Like so long as your turns are there and you're not just like people aren't bulking up on product during your promotions, which kind of shows that the product is probably overvalued. Then you're completely fine. But it's just, you basically go to a store because they want you to spend on trade because you're taking that on usually, or like you're splitting it, but like they're at the end going to make more money on that. So it's just a conversation with the store owner.
Right. Isn't that crazy that the market will always speak? Like even like your price point, right?
Yeah.
Like you can put it on the shelf. Let's say, what's it, $2.99 on the shelf?
$2.99, $3.99. Like when we started, we were actually priced lower because we were thinking about going with the chocolate milks, but now it's like because we're next to freaking Starbucks, like, and we have 20 grams of protein, we have a little bit more price elasticity. Yeah. So we've probably like between $2.99 to $4.29. Like we're launching 7-Eleven Northeast now, and we're $3.99. But like Core Power and other protein shakes are like $5.29. Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So like if you put this on at $4.99, it might not do anything, right? And then all of a sudden, like you drop it to $3.99, and then boom, the market spoke. Like that's the value of it, right? Yeah. That's crazy. So for $2.99, there's a lot of work that goes into each one of these cans. You know, like I don't know if people realize like the amount of
you gotta sell a lot of
cost.
Them. Yeah, you gotta sell a lot.
Yeah. Cool. So like, so this year the plan is to double the store count.
Yep.
Right. You're doing your direct to consumer. Is that still like a big part of the brand too, or is it more towards grocery now, or is it just kind of 50-50 split?
Yeah. So 2020, obviously we weren't planning on COVID.
Yeah.
So we were planning on being closer to 65% retail. We ended up being 65% e-com. And then since it's basically swapped. And so we're going to be a retail first brand always. Like stores come first, just because it's heavy to ship. Like it's kind of like an impulse purchase.
Yeah.
But what's great is that if you acquire a customer in stores and they buy online, like you don't have a cost per acquisition of that customer because they just heard about you in the store.
Right.
So it's just like people call it what do they call it? What's the word for it? I don't know. There are just many different ways to acquire consumers.
Yeah.
Like the product is very versatile. But this year we should double our e-com business as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And how are you utilizing like influencer marketing, creator marketing? You guys doing a lot of that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we have 2 full-timers, Anna Carr, who's our first employee. She is our senior head of partnerships, and she all day, every day is like setting up partnerships. And like we're just striking deals with influencers. Year 1, we just didn't have any money to pay them, so we didn't pay anyone. We just sent out product, and I personally, Josh as well, like we think a lot of businesses are built on handshakes and high fives. Yeah. It's like if you like a post, if you don't, no worries. Just like be a homie, be a good person. And a lot of times you get posts and you just start to build a buzz.
Yeah.
And then people just want to work with people they like.
Right.
Like it's pretty simple. True. It's not rocket science. Like if you have a D-bag head of partnerships that reaches out to you, like we've talked to influencers all the time. We're like, that brand's not my bag.
Right.
Because they're just so professional. It's like, you gotta, it's a partnership. Every single, even 1-off, 2-off, like year-long deal, like it's a partnership. And we now get, like we're in a fortunate situation. We get a lot of inbounds. We've passed on deals because the people on the other line, we just don't trust.
Right.
And it's like, there's no deal, like literally there's not a person in the world that we would want to work with if we had to go through someone that we just didn't trust or didn't like.
Yeah.
And because at the end of the day, like they're probably gonna F up the deal in some capacity.
Right.
But influencers are a big part of our marketing.
No, I was going to ask about raising, right? So,
yeah, that's the next thing.
Yeah, so you've raised, how many rounds have you raised?
Call it like one very long rolling seed round of 5 mil and then a series A of 10.5 mil. So probably like 16, 17 million because there's some pre-seed in there.
And that 10.5 was pretty recently, wasn't it?
We announced it about a month ago.
Okay.
That was just the announcement. So it was like mid last year.
And that was those individual investors or like an institutional investor?
So it was led by the co-founders of private equity firm Castanea Partners in Boston. They have invested in Yasso frozen and Greek yogurt. They were in these guys through exit to Nestle. They were in TRX, like the yellow bands that you see at gyms. So they're consumer guys. And so the fund actually isn't operating anymore. So the co-founders of the fund invested in Slate personally and led the round. Oh. And they've been awesome.
Yeah.
They've been great.
A lot of athletes came in too, right?
Yeah. So Duncan Robinson of the Miami Heat came in, Terrence Mann of the Clippers, some fitness influencers like Brian Mazza and Eric Hinman.
And how did those come about? Through like a firm or individuals?
Just reaching out. Like a lot of times just partnerships. Like I was with Duncan in Miami last weekend, and like he's just so curious and awesome. Like he's just a good dude. And he basically, one of my co-founders, college roommates, grew up with Duncan. That's how he first heard about the product. Then he was working with another protein brand. Deal ended. One of our other investors that came in an earlier round was in the NBA G League and was like boys with Dunk, and then like got connected to his agent and then talked to him, and he's like, I drink Slate all the time and I love it and like I want to get involved, and then we struck a deal.
And now there's Dana White. I want to hear how that happened. He just randomly did like a
review
of you guys.
Was he part of this round?
So Dana's been a huge supporter of the brand. And we got, again, just like you get connected to people, we have a lot of investors now. And a lot of times it's just like someone knows someone that ends up like knowing someone else. And then it's when people end up with the product is typically when they reach out.
Yeah.
Cause they're like, this shit is fucking awesome. Like we always say like the power of the product, like we have gotten a lot of inbound interest just because of the product. And so we got connected with Dana's camp and hopped on a call, and he was like, boys, like I've lost 30 pounds. Like I drink Slate every day.
That's awesome.
And again, like he's just been a huge supporter and was able to go to New York and meet with him. And again, like he's just an authentic dude. Like he's super respectful, like someone that you meet him and you feel like you can trust him because he just wants to fucking win and help. So
that's awesome.
He's from around here, right?
Yeah, I think he was like a Maine and Connecticut guy, and then went to grew up in Vegas for most of his life, then came back here. He was working at Peter Welch's gym.
Oh, really? The boxing gym?
Oh, he was training boxers, I'm pretty sure. And then went back to LA and bought the UFC with the Fertitas, and the rest is history.
So there's a lot of keto around this product, right? Is it a huge keto-driven product?
So we want keto to be a feature of our products, not a feature of our brand. So when people think Slate, we don't want them to think we're a keto brand, because we think that a lot of people believe keto brands are super high in fat, where like we don't have a lot of fat. So we fit in the keto diet. Like when we think about lactose free, like Lactaid, their brand is lactose free, right? Like you think about other brands that are super high in fat and like keto or something with like keto-ish is in their brand name, then everyone thinks of them as a keto brand. Like we just want to have great tasting, high protein, no added sugar, all natural products. And keto is a function of the products.
Yeah. There's a competitor that I've seen that we've watched grow, and they're three brothers or whatever. That's Super Coffee.
Yeah.
Are they like directly in competition with you guys, or they're refrigerated? Are they all refrigerated?
So they're UHT aseptic, so they're shelf stable. They're grinders. Like we've talked to them a few times, and I think that we're all competing for stomach space. Yeah. Like this is a no cal bev. Like you could have 1,000 of these a day. Like if you're a caloric product, you're always competing for stomach space. Like whether it's another coffee, whether it's a protein shake. Like, and again, it's not part of our like TAM, like our actual like target market, but think about bars, like just protein bars. Like people are drinking Slates instead of protein bars. People are drinking Slates sometimes, like instead of like eating almonds.
Right.
So, in terms of in the store, a lot of times we aren't near each other on the shelf.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of respect for what they've done, and they crush it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's interesting. So now, what's the goal? Like, where are you trying to head? Like, and you said you created a plan in the beginning. Are you on plan, or is the plan changing?
The plan, I mean, it's like being in a helicopter looking down at like a maze, right? Like a cornfield maze. Like we're going a direction.
Yeah.
I think we're getting closer to the center, right? Because the business is growing, but like every day, it's like every year so far, we've had a plan and we've executed online with the plan, which is great. And again, that's been e-com and that's been grocery. We're now just getting into the C-store channel with 7-Eleven. We've launched CVS in New England. So starting the drug channel. And so now we're just starting to see like how much meat is on the bone in these other channels, because we think there could be a huge opportunity. Yeah. Probably sell like 500 to 1,000 gyms. So that's another channel that we've started to activate, like one-offs to gyms. And that we're usually sending it directly to the gym, like in 48-pack cases.
So you're just shipping it directly to them? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we're also now like just starting to activate Amazon. So we've been producing every can we've been selling every can we can produce.
Right.
I'm sure you guys saw 2021, 2022. Supply chain, not fun.
No, terrible.
Not fun. Terrible. So we're now just activating Amazon, getting on Prime, and it's just because we haven't had the capacity. Right. So I think that something for us is we see a lot of brands. For you guys, like talking about Super Coffee, we look at some other brands that have grown extremely fast.
Yeah.
And it's it's not our strategy is to
Right.
grow that fast, where I think they've had a lot of success doing it, and other brands that I'm sure you've seen in the market have had success doing it, but we want to grow a little bit slower and a little bit more controlled.
Yeah.
Just because then when unforeseen things happen, like we go down a path in that cornfield maze and hit a wall, we can take a quick left turn.
Right. Right. So like what is the ultimate goal?
I think, look, we want to be in a situation where we are an acquirable brand, but we're not forced to sell the business.
Right.
Because if you raise too much cap and you're burning a shitload, and you get to a point where if you don't raise, you sink, then you're handcuffed. You have to either sell or raise more.
Right.
I think that we want to get to a situation, and it takes capital to start a business, of course.
Right.
And like, I say this now, maybe we get there. Like, not what we want. That's not our goal. But I think we want to get to a point where we want to be thought of as the next high protein, all natural food and drink platform.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we want. Like, we want people, when they want something indulgent, whether it's a chocolate milk or a latte, or we just release these mixes. Like, if someone's like craving like a chocolate milk, they have milk in the fridge, they can toss this mix in. Like, when someone wants something high in protein that has no sugar, it's like a better version of something you already enjoy eating or drinking. We want them to think Slate.
Yeah.
So in terms of end game, like, who knows? We're talking about Chobani too.
Yeah.
Like, Chobani is a perfect example of a story where I think they're still going to IPO, but they've like, when their S1 came out, they run into some issues. But like, everyone's going to run into issues, whether you sell the business or whether you keep going.
Right. So as you're growing, you're balancing like managing cash flow. Like, we want to we can't be burning so much that we're unattractive, and we need to raise to continue all the time. Right. So you're trying to grow, slow, but aggressively, but not out of control, like you said, where you're burning so much cash.
Yeah. I mean, look, like, we're still burning, right? Like, businesses, especially beverage, that we've seen and heard, it just takes, like, man, it's heavy. Like, you got to sell a lot of them. Right. Like, you think about going to like a Whole Foods, maybe we're selling like, I don't know, 15 units per SKU per store. I don't know what the number is. Whereas, like, we talked about pasta sauce, just based on the amount of scans through the register, maybe it's 1, maybe it's 2 units. Right. So just the amount of volume you have to send into that store is just so much more, and that's just producing more and more. It's more in freight costs. So yeah, we want to make sure that we're raising enough to sustain the business, but not over raising to the point where we're setting unrealistic expectations for ourselves and our brand.
Right. Now, what about like different product development, right? So like, are you focused on like maximizing SKUs, maximizing flavors, coming up with new flavors, or is there a bar in your future or something else in the brand?
Yeah. I mean, look, we've talked about everything, right? Like, I'm sure you guys have too. It's, man, we're not short of ideas, right? But we just try to stay focused as much as we can. Like, even the sticks, like the protein mixes, like we started formulating those a while ago, and then waited till we felt like it was the right time to launch them. And going into the new year, like, we had the vanilla and vanilla latte that had been out for about 6 months. Like, it was time. Yeah. I think that down the road, I think that there's an opportunity to become a platform. I think right now it's still trying to stay hyper focused because there's so much more meat on the bone for the drinks. Right. And we know they work. Like, it's just what we've been building has been working.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love it. I absolutely love the product. I love the packaging. It's perfect.
The growth strategy is important too. I'm a huge believer in what you said, like going direct to consumer, building that like fan customer base, and they kind of drive the in-store and the sweat equity of the brand itself.
And even the investors are like fans of the brand too. That's so important. Like, that's who you want putting money in your company, someone who loves the product.
Definitely. Yeah, we've talked to a few professional athletes that just like, 2 of them actually just don't drink chocolate milk. They're like, I love chocolate, I love milk, I just don't have chocolate milk, but like, I'm gonna be a cheerleader, but like, I don't think it's the right fit. And we're like, yeah, it's probably not the right fit, but like, appreciate it. Right. We get tons of no's. Like, even like, we've had some success. Like, there are things that we could be doing better, but shit, we get no's all the time. It's still like, after every call, it's like, F them. Yeah. Not actually, but like, it's just, you hate hearing it.
Right, do you see some of your best influencers being like professional athletes, or more like everyday trainer type? Like, do you see a huge differentiating certain types of creators?
Yeah. So AC crushes it, but I think for her, it's like, it's kind of like a spidey sense. It's like, does this person actually like the product? Are they going to really help? Like, we just signed this new influencer named Angela, and she's been awesome. Like, her content's been awesome. And it's AC is like, we got to work with her. Like, we have to work with her. And I was like, all right, let's go get her. Right. Like, let's do a deal. And so I think we kind of have the year-long deals, then we have the one-offs, and the one-offs, I think it's kind of like a lower bar in terms of, still has to be someone that we trust, that we think represents the brand properly. But at the end of the day, like, it's, 2 posts and we're potentially parting ways, and maybe we'll come back in the future. But it really is just like, Anna, it's just taking time, and AC just growing to realize like what you kind of look for. And also, like, if we don't have a direct line to like a larger athlete fitness influencer, whatever, and we're just talking to their agent, we feel like we're not going to be able to communicate properly with them, then it's up to the manager, right? Like if we think that if the manager is like not potentially the right fit, but the athlete's the perfect fit, it's no go. It's not going to work out because we just need to have a relationship with each partner.
Yeah, if even in content, like when you're consuming content, you can see if the creator is posting something, if they care about it or not.
Yeah.
Like it's just an authentic thing, especially nowadays. Like as a consumer, you can see like clearly a paid post. Clearly that guy doesn't give a shit about what he's posting about. He just took the money and ran.
Yeah. Are you doing a lot on TikTok?
So a little bit on TikTok. I think we're starting to do more. Honestly, I think that we're just now understanding it.
Yeah.
But it's still for us. I think our team just knows Instagram better.
Yeah.
But what I'm seeing now, like I was just looking at our numbers yesterday, and like TikTok, like you got a couple of videos that hit, like
it can blow up fast.
Yeah.
We got one.
Yeah, we got one.
We got one. Yeah.
Nice. So let's see where we're at right now.
It's like 300,
first time we get
300 plus thousand.
Oh, hell yeah.
Let's see where we at.
On the last episode.
Yeah,
like
the last.
Are we 350 yet?
350.
But he's a scumbag. He posted on his page instead of the
yeah, I didn't know like what we were doing. We like again.
Costa was like, "Can you fucking not post it on your page? We're gonna post it on our page."
Like, because we all have the clips, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, "All right, nobody posted the clips on your own personal TikToks. We got to post it through the company TikTok." And I like didn't read the text right. I didn't understand, so I posted it.
And I kept calling him a scumbag. He didn't know why I was calling him a scumbag. I'm like, "Will you fucking read the text?"
And 350,000
fuck yeah.
views out of nowhere, right?
Okay,
huge win.
Big win.
Little high five in the corner. All right.
I got another one. I got another one on a run. 22,000.
Now listen, we're in the case. As long as you're at 22K, 10K, love to see.
So let's see what I still have like 300 followers, but in case you're on TikTok, follow me there. But yeah, no, this is great. There's a lot of like
There's
really
so much.
a lot of like if you're looking at a startup, this is a great episode for you. Like a lot of tangible takeaways, I think.
Especially in the product space, because there's direct to consumer and it's retailing. It's two completely separate businesses almost. And
It is.
this episode, there's a lot of different.
And I love how you're using like the marketing, the direct to consumer to help drive the retail sales. That's a really like
It's all a
intuitive
wheel.
way.
Like it all connects.
Yeah.
Like I talked to a nutritional shake company that was kind of hot like 7 or 8 years ago, and they're still kind of chugging along. And the co-founder was like, we just waited too long to go retail. He was like, once we went retail, everyone thought we were just like a powder for e-com. And so like they recognized the brand, but like it just like we were kind of old news. And so he was like that also like just conversations like that. It's like, you got to go. Right.
Timing's so important, especially in like the health space.
Everything.
It's just product placement. Everything is just timing, I feel like.
Yeah, no question. All right, cool. So anything else anything new coming up that you want to let us know about?
No, we just launched the mixes. Mixes are fire. Like excited about those.
So there's
a single service like liquid IV style like protein sticks.
Cool. Mix with water?
Mix with water.
Or milk?
You can mix with water. You can mix with milk.
Yeah.
I mix it with water. It's almost like a protein shake, but it tastes more like a chocolate milk. So I spend a lot of time on that. But no, it's just day by day, like just selling can by can. That's what we say.
Yeah, well, we're big fans. We're rooting you on. You know, we hope.
What about a tip of advice?
Yeah. What's the best advice you've gotten from, anybody
Best and
or
worst.
somebody? Yeah.
Best and worst.
Yeah,
Best
best
and
advice.
worst.
Yeah, biggest mistake.
I don't know if it's the best advice, but like, man, in startups, like you just gotta be a fucking savage.
Yeah.
You're gonna be a gritty bastard.
Like you can't piss people off. But like if you need something done, like you just gotta go fucking take it.
Yeah.
Like there's no other way to do it. And you gotta be respectful of partners and make sure they're in with you. But like you can't expect a partner, like whether it's marketing, manufacturing, what you can't expect them to go above and beyond for you. And cause like they shouldn't. Like maybe they're risking their jobs.
Yeah.
Right. But like you gotta kind of have the mentality that you got nothing to lose and everything to lose all at the same time.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, like there have been times where like we would have missed production runs if we didn't just find a way to like connect with another company that had an ingredient. And it was just asking. And it wasn't like being rude. It wasn't, obviously we never make threats. It was more just like, please. Like this is like, there have been times on a call where I'm like, this is my life. Like this is not a job. And like, I won't say I got the phone number from you. Like I just need to call. Like I just need this ingredient or else we're going to miss the run and it's going to cost us a lot of money and be very bad for the business.
Yeah.
And you just try to find a way. And so it's like, sometimes you got to break the rules, but you can't, like if you burn a bridge, like it's, you won't, a lot of times you can't build it back up.
Yeah.
So like being respectful of partners is everything, but also like you just got to be a fucking savage to find a way to do it.
Yeah, it's great.
Love that.
I think is key, and it doesn't matter the size. Like we know companies 5 times the size of us where it's still their mentality, and like you got to be a little bit more careful at that point. But like if you want to build something, like you got to go build it.
Yeah.
Like no, you can't expect anyone that's not waking up and getting a paycheck for your company to do anything.
Yeah. Now, what's the biggest mistake you guys have made, or something to avoid?
Be here for another 3 hours.
Yeah.
Something. I mean, just honestly, like just making the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
Like you can't make the same mistake twice.
It's a good one.
You can't. Like it's so simple. I think there's like a line in Breaking Bad too, where Gus says to Walter, like any words of advice is like, don't make the same mistake twice. It's just like, it's so simple, but it's like, man, there are like 2 times that Josh and I always go back to in our heads where we're not like thinking about what could have been, but we went with kind of like the Hollywood effect versus our gut, where like we like saw a bright shiny object that like looked cool and like we thought it would be best for the brand because like everyone kind of like led us to believe it was, and no one in particular, just like everything that like all the conversations with teams and whatnot. Whereas in our gut, both of us were like, just doesn't feel right.
Right.
And we did it once and we're like, we effing knew it. Shouldn't have done that. But again, it wasn't detrimental. It was just a dumb decision. And then it happened again. And we the same exact, and this was very early on in the business. And we're like, we knew it. And like, it's more like positive advice versus negative advice. But like, I think maybe the worst advice I ever got is the data is always right. Data is not always right. Like sometimes the data will say something, but your gut will say something different. And maybe the data is shown incorrectly. Like maybe it's a graph and it's like the different fields aren't accurately representing what the graph should be saying. Like there are a million different things that people can show you the right data, but in the wrong way. And so I think that we'll always look at the data. We'll take a lot of times to make decisions. But at the end of the day, like if you go with your gut and you're wrong, then like, all right, you thought you were right, but you're wrong. If you go against your gut and you're wrong, you're like, you're thinking about it for weeks.
Yeah, you'll feel it.
So
about that one.
Those are really 2 really good takeaways.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that.
Perfect.
All right. Well, I think that's a wrap. Great episode.
Yeah.
We're big, huge fans.
Appreciate it, dudes.
Go buy Slate.
Yeah.
And Nutra.
Slate Milk. Yep. And thanks for coming on, man.
Appreciate you.
Perfect.